That's the province on the correct path towards discovering the real motives behind the brutal killings of our people in our province. We remain steadfastly convinced that it is necessary to have a concrete and informed understanding on the phenomenon, rather than depending on conspiracies and divisive allegations. The ANC Provincial Executive Committee will appear before the Commission of Inquiry on the 19th and the 20th of October 2017 in order to provide its own perspective on this difficult challenge facing our province. On celebration of OR Tambo Month, the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal will soon announce a detailed and elaborate program to celebrate the life and the contribution of President O.R. Tambo to the struggle for liberation. These events will include, among others, cadres forums, memorial lectures, rallies, activities of goodwill in service of the people. Given the complex challenge we continue to face, it is natural that all of us must be driven by a sense of agency to consolidate the unity of the African National Congress in honor of President O.R. Tambo and his generation. On unity of the ANC in Herigwala region, the ANC Provincial Working Committee continues with a series of engagement with the ANC structures and councillors in Herigwala region in an effort to overcome difficulties confronting the movement in the region. We recognize that the painful loss of life has created a climate of mistrust and suspicions among ANC members, which undermines the standing of the organization as a leader of society. Our immediate problems can only be counteracted and successfully overcome by a movement and membership that does not lose hope because of difficulties. The ANC has and will always be driven by a conviction to resolve all problems in the best interest of our people. The ANC Provincial Executive Committee calls on all our members and supporters not and never allow themselves to be misled by false rumors, malicious and depressing gossip about the motive behind the loss of life without credible evidence. On local government summit, the PEC will convene a local government summit before the end of October to critically assess progress in the implementation of the ANC 2016 local government election manifesto. We have a contract to serve the people of KwaZulu-Natal who gave the ANC a resounding mandate to govern. On the preparation for the by-elections, over the next 2 weeks, ANC will be campaigning for by-elections at Moses Mabhida region, Richmond sub-region, and Lower South Coast region at Rain Konyeni sub-region. These by-elections come as a result of the passing away of our councillors in the past few months. The Richmond municipality by-election of Ward 2 and Rain Konyeni municipality Ward 10 and Ward 28, the ANC has followed all the processes of a candidate selection and that will be representing the ANC. In the next few months, the ANC will be working tirelessly in preparation for by-election that will be held at Moses Mabhida region at Mkambatini municipality, Abakulusi region at Abakulusi municipality, and at Musadladla region at Mlalazi municipality. on the killings of ANC members. The PEC conveys its sincere and heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Comrade KwaZulu-Natal Ngobo, who was murdered last night. Comrade KwaZulu-Natal Ngobo was a former ANC branch chairperson and currently employed as the secretary to the ESCO of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma local municipality in Herigwala. Our deepest condolences also go to the family and friends of Comrade Bongani Msomi, who is a former ANC councillor at Umtubatuba local municipality. He was killed while attending a local Maskanda festival in Umtubatuba. It is indeed a matter of great pain that the ANC continue to lose its committed activists who are committed to its historic mission. For us, losing any person in the province is really pain and unbearable. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lopala. I'm assuming that you're now in the position of the actual statement, which will make your work much more easier in case you want to pose questions relating to what is contained in the statement and probably what may not necessarily be contained in the statement, but which you deemed appropriate or to be of interest to the institutions where you come from. So let me allow you to start raising questions. So I'm going to depend on you by show of hands to know that there's a question. You'll be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. I can see 5 hands at the moment. If there are hands I'm missing at the back, please alert me, but I've seen only 5 for now. So let's proceed in the same sequence, in that sequence.
I hear you talking about the unity and working on uniting the ANC. But I want to understand, in what way are you uniting the ANC? Are you in talks or in negotiations with those who are seem to be aggrieved with the conference of the ANC? Is there any kind of negotiation in order to get that unity within the ANC? And I also wish to understand, like, what is it that the ANC, the NEC is saying about your status? Is it disbanding you? Is it despite allowing you to appeal the case? Are you going to remain in the office? Are you going to be disbanded? What is happening with the PTT? Where are we?
So you've already set up a PTT. You're not saying the PEC. You're saying the PTT already.
I'm trying to ask to find out if the PTT is going to be formed, and according to, with your understanding, how is the PTT going to look like? Is it going to be how to put it?
You are looking for inclusive.
Inclusive. Yeah.
I know there's a popular inclusive word. So, Zianda, number 2.
Sure. My question is linked to Bomani's first question. The applicants have expressed their intention to block your appeal process. So what does that mean for unity in the meantime while the NEC deliberates on what they're going to do and if they do decide to disband you as a KZN ANC leadership?
Thank you. Number 3.
I believe that Mr. Zikalala and Martin Boyakulu met yesterday morning.
You believe what you heard?
I know.
Okay.
To discuss a way forward. And one of the things that they discussed as well would be an interim task team to lead the province. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about that. As Bongs and Zianda were saying, exactly where does the PEC sit considering that the so-called rebels believe that you are illegal, and how is the process now going to go forward? And then secondly, just who will be appearing before the Moronic Commission?
Okay. Number 4. The fourth, yeah.
My question is not some of my questions, but I want to find out if the PEC is appealing the decision about the judgment by determining the right law, does it mean that are you still going to proceed with the rerun of the conference? Secondly, what is the reason for you to appeal? Are you appealing because you feel that I know that you might say that you think that a different court might come to a different conclusion, but what will be the impact of this judgment to the ANC should you not make an appeal?
Okay. Number 5.
You mentioned you have by-elections in the offing for members who passed away. Will the by-elections include members who are considered not part of the unit process?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
What I'm trying to find out is the by-elections
Yes.
are for members who passed away.
Yes.
But I want to know if the by-elections are also planned for the so-called rebel councillors. Is that any offering? Is that on the card?
Or you mean to offer? Okay. The question is that whether or not the by-elections will be used to offer to the comrades who were not elected in the PEC. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Let me allow the provincial secretary to respond to these questions first, and then we will check when there's more questions coming.
No, on the issue of unity, indeed we are committed to the issue to unity. We had a discussion at the special PEC. We also had a discussion at the Provincial Working Committee yesterday. We agreed that we need to have a discussion and discuss with even those comrades who took us to court. There was a team, a 3-a-side team that started the discussion immediately after our provincial conference, but those talks couldn't yield the desired results. We are resuscitating those discussions now. There is a team from our side, 3 members of the PEC will be approaching the comrades to have a discussion on the issue of unity. That team will be led by our deputy chairperson, Comrade Willis Mkhulu. That shows the manner in which we are prioritizing the issue of unity, and that the leadership that will be leading there is the deputy chairperson of the ANC. Because we think it's important that we discuss unity, because I don't think there is any leader or any organization that can be happy that we are leading an organization that is divided, or we are in an organization that is divided. It will be in the best interest of the organization that we discuss and find closure to these difficulties that we are experiencing. Coming to the status of the PEC, there is no question now legally about the status of the PEC. We appealed the decision or the judgment last week, Wednesday. Immediately after appealing, then the judgment is suspended pending the outcome of the appeal, if you know legal processes. So there is no question whether there is a PEC or not. It's clear there is PEC. Status quo remains until the appeal. Then on the issue of the PTT, I don't know whether I should answer something that's not existing. That is not. You can only have a PTT if there is no structure. then you can enter into that discussion. So I think that question is irrelevant right now because there is a structure. On the issue of the discussion, that leaked discussion between Sigalala and Mabuya Kulu, now that you know, yes, we can confirm there was that discussion. As to what was discussed, it's an internal process. But there is an attempt to unite the organization. So we will discuss with everybody if that will assist in uniting the organization in the province. As to then who will be leading the discussion, I don't think it's, for now it's important. But we have already said from our side, any discussions that talk about unity will be led by 3 members and will be led by the Deputy Chairperson, Comrade Willie Simco. On the issue of who will be appearing before the Commission of Inquiry, the statement is very clear that the PEC of KwaZulu-Natal will be appearing before the Commission of Inquiry on the 19th and the 18th of October. There was a question of the issue for the rerun of the conference. As I've already responded, there is no judgment now because the judgment has been appealed. The judgment has been suspended, so we can't enter into that discussion. On the impact of the judgment, yes, indeed, it has a serious impact, and it can set a very wrong precedent, not only for KwaZulu-Natal, on the interpretation of the ANC constitution. I think it's also important to clarify this position, that we were taken to court because comrades were believing that there were many irregularities that happened prior to the conference and during the conference itself. We all know now that according to the judgment, it's clear that there was no material rigging or irregularities that happened in the conference. So it means the results of the 8th Provincial Conference, it's a true reflection of the delegates and the true reflection of the participation of the branches. So the only thing that the judges found was that the convening of the conference early was in contrary to the constitution of the ANC. Not in all other allegations that were brought before the court. The court couldn't find anything there. In fact, they were satisfied with our responses. You see, what is important also with that judgment, that's why we are saying that a different court can come up with a different judgment, because the judges themselves are saying they are not happy, or they don't agree with the applicant's interpretation of Rule 17.2.1. They are also not agreeing with our interpretation as the ANC. They came up with their own interpretation. That was not in the papers, that was not argued. So that's why we are saying if there are 3 interpretations of the Constitution, indeed, a different court can come to another a conclusion on a matter. So by-elections are by-elections, are not meant for anybody, are not meant to offer any position to anyone. The ANC selection processes has been followed. and it is members of the ANC in that particular branch that determine who should be a ward candidate. So I think I've answered all questions.
Yes, I can confirm that all questions that were asked were answered. Let me take another set of hands. I'll start with the new one. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Okay, actually you must be number 3 because you are new. Yes, and then you would be number 4, and then Hans would be number 5. Yeah, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yes, you can proceed. Number 1.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, maybe for clarity, please help me, Lovat. You mentioned something about a 3-year site that didn't yield the desired result. Was that a meeting, was that different from another meeting, not where Mabia Kudu and Chairperson Sita Zilalala met? And what, if it didn't yield, what was the problem? Why couldn't they, when you say it didn't yield any result, what was the issue there? Secondly, just to go back on the issue of the rerun, what the chairperson has said to us before was that, and he said that even in the public meeting and the KZN forum that he's spoken at, he said that the issue about even if you do appeal, you could consider a rerun. There could be a consideration for a rerun. So that's also why I just wanted to ask, aside from the appeal, yes, the appeal is going ahead, but is there a consideration, was the matter of the rerun discussed at the meeting, at the NWC meeting? And then my last one is with regards to the latest unfortunate the killings. There was a task team that was set up. In fact, not only now, I remember it way back when there were 2 task teams that have been set up by the ANC. Have they had any progress looking at internally in the ANC what could be the possible reasons for these ongoing killings?
Number 2.
Thanks, Nata, from the title. One of my questions is similar to Ayala, so I want to go there. In supporting your decision in the MEC, did it emanate from the legal counsel that advised them so? And also, in interpretation of the said rule, is this rule going to be subjected to the National Conference in December? Because now we've got 3 interpretations that are conflicting. I think the last segment, one of the segments from the NEC last week spoke about taking this rule to the National Conference to be debated there. Is that still stand?
Number 3.
Yeah, no, so mine would be like, trying to find those when 2 members of the family. Now, I find in court, then it's every time they come up and talk. Now, where is this going to? Because I was thinking, we want to put aside and talk unity on the other hand.
Okay. Number 5. Number 4, sorry.
Just to find, for clarity's sake, what were the proposals of the KZN ANC in this meeting in terms of a solution to the current impasse between the 2 factions? Were you for provincial task team, or are you for the disbandment of the KZN ANC? What were your proposals? And just on a point of clarity then, you're saying that you're continuing with the appeal and you're very well aware that the other side is planning to block that move. So then what is your plan? Because effectively, if they do block your move to appeal, you would have to be set aside as a KZN ANC collective. So what would then be your next move in terms of your talks of unity as well?
Thank you. Number 5.
Okay.
You're covered.
No,
Okay.
I mean, since you are now talking about the fact that the appeal has set aside judgment and you are back in office, and you are with the appeal still in progress. We are no longer talking about the rerun. Aren't you anticipating any hostility from the other guys who want to out of office, who want PPT, and who are opposed to the appeal. What kind of negotiations are you foreseeing, I mean, going with these differences that you are carrying right now?
Okay. I think we can take those questions for now, yes.
Okay. No, thanks very much, Pemba. On the issue of 3 aside and a meeting between Zigala and Mabuya Kulu, these are 2 different issues. The 3 aside that could not, proceed were 2 years ago, immediately after the provincial conference. Now, the meeting that she is talking about, it's a meeting that was yesterday. Yeah, I think I've responded to that question. And the issue of rerun, was there any discussion? There was no discussion. Because there was no need for a discussion. Because you can only discuss the issue of the rerun if there is no PEC. You see, I'm responding even to those questions that you have not asked. Because I know you've got so many questions because of what you have been hearing, not what is happening. Now, we want us to respond on what you have been hearing, not what has been happening, what happened. And we'll confine ourselves to the discussions within the ANC and the decisions of the ANC, not other issues. On the issue of the 2 task teams, that one that was going to investigate internally and the other one that was going to deal with the political education, you'll recall that we pronounced that for those 2 task team in a press briefing. Immediately after that, I think a week after that, there was the court judgment. So we haven't moved that far because we had to be tactful in terms of how do we deal with issues. So we are now going to go back to that decision. On the issue of the ANC constitution, indeed, as we are preparing for the 54th National Conference, in fact, we have received the draft amendments, constitutional amendments, for branches to start discussion. So we'll be, we have put together comrades, a team that will be looking at the constitutional amendments. And one of the issues that they should look at is the, Rule 17 and other rules that are talking to that. Issue of courts and unity. You see, it doesn't mean that if you are in court, then you don't have to discuss. I've been a leader of unions. In so many instances, there will be disputes. You'll go to courts, but sometimes in a number of instances, you will find a solution when you discuss. You go to court to say, no, we have agreed on this issue now. We are assisting the process, in fact, because I don't think it's even our courts should be dealing with serious issues, not political, our own political internal issues. So it's important that we discuss, even if it means we are in court, but we continue with our discussions so that we don't prolong this matter. The proposals of the KwaZulu-Natal in the NEC, you see, what I was taught in the ANC is that when you are having a meeting, you come in a meeting with different views. So, but when you come out of the meeting, you'll talk about the decision of that meeting. So we are here to convey a decision of and the position of the ANC, not what were the different views prior to that decision. So we'll stick to that because we are here to convey decisions of the ANC. On the issue of, I don't know what hostility we are talking about. Even those who are saying they want us out of the office. We have been in the office even for more than 15 days now. By the way, 15 days ends today in legal terms. So there is no one that will block us because we have already appealed. The appeal was launched on the 27th September, last week. No one blocked us. So the issue of blocking somebody is not an issue anymore. So they've got a right to oppose an appeal, but not to block an appeal. So I think we are clear on that one. There is no issue of blocking because the appeal is there now. As I've said, immediately after launching an appeal, then it suspends the judgment until the hearing of the appeal. Thank you very much.
I think maybe just to make one small addition to what Nobala was saying. You see, firstly, the reason why we are going to court as a provincial executive committee, it's not because we believe that matters of this nature must be settled by the court of law. We are going to court because at the heart of our discomfort is the interpretation of the ANC constitution. We are not going to court because we are unable to resolve our own differences in the organization. We are going to court because the court has made pronouncements which will have an impact on the ANC in the province and beyond the borders of our province. And maybe to respond to the issue that Ayanda was saying in one of the cadres forum, the provincial chairperson said we are amenable to any way. We can, if the need arises, if the NEC says, look, we believe that this matter must be appealed, but you must reconvene a conference, we will accede to that. I think the essence of what the chair was saying, the central message is that we subjected ourselves to the authority of the National Executive Committee because we believe in the NEC. We believe in the wisdom of that collective. We believe that whatever decisions they would have taken, irrespective of how it would have impacted on us or any other comrade in the province, but it's a decision that was meant to be implemented by all of us. So the spirit that was emerging from the chairperson's address is that we are subjected to the African National Congress because the supreme body in between conferences is the National Executive Committee. And I think it's important to emphasize this appeal is not about continuing tension. It's a matter that we are raising as well with the comrades who had taken the ANC to court, that this must not be understood outside context. This must be understood as an effort to avoid and avert a possibility of a judgment that would stay and affect the party in the future. Because if you don't deal with the consequences of that judgment, and that is why there was a very pronounced commitment on our side that the NEC can decide anything that it wants to decide, but please help us to appeal the judgment, not only for our own selfish ends as a provincial executive committee, but primarily because it has implications to the ANC as a party and not to the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. And we know that comrades have expressed their intention to counter appeal or to launch. We believe that we have no authority over that, but in our engagement with comrades, we are making the point that we should not disadvantage the ANC now as a party from correcting what is a wrong judgment. Let's deal with our own issues, but let's not disadvantage the party that, irrespective of who's leading it now and in the future, must still have the authority to determine its own affairs and to determine its own destiny in terms of how its constitution is interpreted and implemented. That is the only call we are making to all members of the ANC, and we are convinced that it's not going to detract from the commitment to the unit of the organization. What Nobala was saying is what we are committed to work for the unit. It's not going to be easy. It requires leadership. There must be compromises in terms of attitude and public articulations. We believe as the PEC that part of the effort to deal with these problems is to avoid calling each other names that are unpalatable. Let's be comradely, let's deal with each other on the basis of concrete differences, not on the basis of the assertions that we make in public, which have got nothing to do with the problems we're facing. I think we've dealt with all the questions except this one and these two. Yeah.
Thanks. So, Ndu, I'm just trying to understand here, and I know I'm a bit slow because I'm blind. I'm trying to understand what exactly has changed. So, you're appealing the judgment, they're counter-appealing. Okay, yeah.
They might.
Yes.
They might. We're not sure if they will.
No, they said they will.
Okay.
And they said it last week Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's going to be no PTT. All right. So basically we're in the same place we were a couple of weeks ago, except that now you've got permission to appeal. So what place is there in the provincial ANC for the so-called rebel comrades? There needs to be some give and take. So what are you proposing giving to them? I mean, are you still are you looking at potential leadership positions, or are you just saying to them, well, it's done now, we're appealing, we can talk, and then, you're all members in good standing, that's great. Okay. So if you can just give us a
sense of that. All right. Number two.
Mine is just obviously we outside of the whole court issues, you are preparing to go to conference. I just wanted to get the status of branches at the moment. I know that there were a number of issues. There were appeals in certain regions. Where are you with that branch audits, etc.? We've got about 2 months or just around 2 months before you go to conference. Yes.
Okay. Number three.
Sorry, I'm just asking all my questions, but I wanted to find out, since the applicants do not really recognize your authority, how, as nobody as a custodian of processes in the branches, thinks this is going to pan out when you've got branches that are against you or are not working towards the common purpose as we're going to the conference? So it talks to the status of the branches at the moment. Are they in good standing? Are they also part of the whole process of nomination and all that you still have to undergo?
Okay, let me deal with the first question, and then Nobala will deal with the rest of the questions. You see, what we were explaining, what the provincial secretary is saying, is that from the moment we departed from the provincial conference, there was a recognition on our part as the elected leadership and those who were not elected, that we needed to engage in order to solve the problems that followed the provincial conference, the marches that happened and all of those things. As a consequence of that recognition, we appointed a team of 3 comrades, led by the Deputy Provincial Chairperson of the ANC, which led us into the engagement with the comrades who were unelected in the provincial conference of the ANC. That work went ahead. The only time where that work was somehow compromised was when the legal action dominated the discourse in the organization, where comrades went to court and the matter went to court up to the point where the legal judgment was handed down by the High Court. But parallel to that, there's always been discussions between and amongst comrades who are elected in the PEC and those who are not elected in the PEC. For instance, those of us who are the recent graduate of the NCU clique, elected, and those who are unelected, they've always been discussing about what do we do to unite the organization, informally so, outside the formal process that the provincial secretary was saying was sanctioned by the organization. But all of those efforts were dealt a blow by the developments in the court of law, when the matters became an issue that is before the court, and therefore it meant the tension was rising between those who are for and those who are against. What we are now doing, and you would have known that when the national officials came here on Sunday, firstly they had a meeting with the Provincial Executive Committee, precisely to reflect on the state of the affairs. Where are we? How did we get to this position? What should we do to deal with this environment? We had our own views. We agreed with the national officials that there is a collective intention on the part of the PEC for the unit of the organization. Yesterday, as you'll be aware, they met with the comrades as well, the comrades who were not elected in the PEC. That has been reported widely in the media. I'm sure you are aware of it. And they also went through a meeting throughout the day and the evening, dealing with the same kinds of issues that we were dealing with. Now, the commitment that we have made, and the comrades who are not in the leadership of the PEC at the moment made, was that we must engage. And that in the course of the engagement, we must be brutally honest and candid about the challenges we face. It is only going to be the outcome of that process which will determine what concessions do we make as the leadership of the ANC now, both elected and unelected. What concessions do we make in order to unite the organization? Our view as a PEC is that we shouldn't go out and ventilate the choices we have in relation to how these matters must be concluded, even before discussions are unfolding, because that will compromise the integrity of the process that is led by the national officials, for which we are also agreeing that we must be party to. So the question about whether there will be give and take is a question that is going to be a function of process. I think as we continue to engage, now that the national leadership has come down to say to us, go back to where you were, engage each other, and we've agreed that if there's one thing that we must never be tired of doing, is to engage one another, persuade each other until there's a consensus about how to move forward. If that consensus, for whatever reasons, will entail certain concession of one form or another from either side that is involved in the discussion, I think that's the nature of any engagement. If you go to an engagement, you understand that your purpose in the engagement is to find a solution. It may not be the best solution for either of the two parties, but if it's a solution that we're all committed to, solution that we're going to implement and depend upon it to unite the organization. I think that's how far we can explain what we see to be the evolving process of discussion between ourselves and the comrades who were not elected in the conference.
Okay. I think I'll deal with three issues, because I can see the questions are trying to find something else, but the questions are talking about something else. You see, there is a process of the ANC leading to our 54th National Conference, the process of membership audit. That process is dealing with membership audit, is also dealing with the status of branches, whether the branches can go standing or not. But also, if the branch is not in good standing because they couldn't meet a minimum requirement in terms of membership, if they've got a membership that is below 100, that branch is already excluded from the processes towards the national conference. But if the auditors found that no, that branch is in good standing according to the branch, but in terms of the elected leadership, when they are auditing, they found that there was something wrong, but their membership is above 100, that branch will be said the branch is not in good standing, the branch, but in terms of the membership, that branch can participate in the process, but before they participate, they must first elect leadership. So for them to be in good standing, then thereafter proceeding with the PGM to elect delegates and nominate. So now, if you don't know these things, then you might mix issues there. The other issue there is the issue of the regional conferences. There's only one region that is very much advanced in terms of the preparations for regional conference. It's uKhahlamba. Now, that region membership was done to them, to all branches. Then they were allowed to start the process of preparing for the regional conference, convening PGMs. They have convened PGMs. Emanating from those PGMs, there were disputes. That's why there has been this protest, which has nothing to do with the processes towards the national conference. It's the regional issue, regional conference issue that we're attending to. So I think it's important that we clarify that. In terms of branches, they all, respect the leadership. All of them participated in the audit process. All of them are participating in our programs, as ANC programs. There is no branch that can be said, no, they don't want this leadership. Nothing for the past 2 years. So all of them, all branches that qualifies to go to the 54th National Conference will be participating in the process. I had to deal with only with that matter, Comrade Chair.
Thank you very much, Comrade Nopala, and thank you very much to all of you. As usual, we appreciate your presence to cover our press briefing, and we are always accessible, I'm sure, on the phones, subsequent to your press briefings.
Always available.
Always available. Always available. Thank you very much.
No.
So you're saying the entire PEC, every single person is going to be at the Barani Commission?
Well, I think the essence is that there will be a delegation representing.
Why don't you tell us about the proposals that you
sure
made? We know what they proposed to the NEC. What did you guys propose?
I told you that the way I was taught to ANC, you only discuss our decisions, not